This is my tier list of the 16 students in Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. Let's go over why the people are where they are. So, Kokichi is literally my least favorite character in the entire franchise because he's a he's super obnoxious. Everything he does either results in bad things happening or does nothing. And in a game that's all about uncovering truths, characters that do nothing but lie are, well, counterproductive and frustrating. So I just don't feel the need. Now, it is true that Kokichi is definitely a compelling character during the trials. However, during the other 50% of the game, he's just worthless. Now, Kayade is definitely a great character when she's around, but the problem is she's in the game for like 5 minutes. And so her barely being in the game just has to makes it so that compared to everyone else, she just doesn't get to leave that much of a lasting impression. Then Korakio, for most of the time that he was in the game, I liked him, but then with the whole reveal that it's like, oh, he's an incestuous serial killer, well, that kind of ruined him for me. And then Tenko, I don't really like because, well, she's just completely a sexist. And see, this is really weird too because I feel like that the good characters in V3 are like some of the best of the entire franchise, and that the worst of V3 is some of the worst of the franchise. And like I feel like that if I made a tier list for like all 48 students that are in 1, 2, and V3, I do think that um, there would be a lot of like C and D tier characters on this would be at the bottom, and yeah. So anyway, moving on. Um, Karumi is another character that's in the category of she is hurt by the fact that she's not in the game very much. However, it is and she is also definitely doesn't deviate from the maid trope very much. However, I also do feel like that of all the people um who commit a murder in this third game, she definitely has the uh the best motive. Then Himiko, well, half the time she's sympathetic and half the time she's annoying, and I wish she was dead. So, well, half good and half bad. That's meh overall. Then Samugi. Now, Samugi was definitely the character that I had to think about the placement of for the hardest because with Samugi, for like the first 90% of the game, she's completely plain, and I would always literally forget that she even existed. However, then in the last 10%, it's revealed that she's the main villain of all the Danganronpa games. So that was obviously a lot to weigh because I was literally thinking, like, does the fact that Kasumi is Junko, like, do I like that twist? And does it make me like her more or less the same? And I decided that even though technically uh, Junko and AI Junko are her cosplaying technically, I decided to ignore that and to just judge Samugi based off of her actions and how interesting she is as Samugi, and therefore I kept her at C. Then Rantaro is C because, well, he's got a boring personality, he's barely in the game, and the fact that his backstory was that he was in a killing game before was easily predictable from a mile away. Now, next we have Ryoma. Now, throughout the course of Chapter 1 and 2, Ryoma was my favorite guy in the game, just because the general concept of, like, he's a tough guy who could kill you with ease, but he's also got a heart of gold, so he's not. It's just, I like. And so I really did like him and while he was around. Then Angie is also another one where I initially started off liking her. Now, of all of the girls, if we're going just by character design, I actually think Angie probably has the best character design of all the girls. However, so because of that, immediately out of the gate, Angie started out high, but then it's like, oh, she's a religious fanatic. She's trying to get everyone to worship her god, and then she started a cult. So that just each one of those things brought her down um, a little, a little bit. And then we have Shuichi, and with Shuichi, I really feel that, like, as a protagonist, he's, well, better than Makoto and not as good as Hajime. So I put him in B tier. Then um with Kibo, I like the arc that he goes through of slowly becoming more quote unquote human. And I also like the fact that the character that is the audience surrogate is both not the protagonist. And also, I think that it's clever to make it so that, like, yes, the surrogate for humanity is a robot. And also, in addition to that, it always felt weird that it's like, really, he's the ultimate robot, but he's technically got, like, the feats and capabilities of your average human. Like, I get the joke, and it is funny, but it did feel a little weird. So the fact that they did reveal that it's like, no, he does have, like, I'm a killer robot who can fly and shoot lasers and obliterate buildings, does make sense. Then Ganta. So Ganta is he's a he's a pretty simple character, all things considered. However, I do appreciate how wholesome he is and how he is almost completely he is almost completely incorruptible. And also, I will say that the just like how the fourth trial of this third game um like where Mio dies and Ganta is the killer, but really Kokichi's the killer. But because of semantics, Ganta takes the fall for it. Like, that's definitely the most brutal and heartbreaking chapter in V3. Then we have Maki and Kaito, and that's now, and that's just because, like, well, they have a good relationship with each other. They have a good relationship with Shuichi, and then also they all have a lot of screen time because they're like the best friends. Because realistically, like, Maki and Kaito are basically this game's equivalent to like the Kyoko and the Byakuya, or the Nagito and the Chiaki. It's like they're in it a lot. And of course, even though Ganta had the most, like, heartbreaking execution, um Kaito's is amazing as well, and it's satisfying, and I actually really like the fact that when he gets executed, um, he he dies of his illness before the execution is complete. So he goes out on his terms and not Monokuma's. And also the person he kills is the worthless Kokichi. And yeah, and also like with Maki, it's also I feel like the arc that she goes through with coming out of her shell and opening up, and also like the whole going from the ultimate child caretaker to the ultimate assassin to like the ultimate friend is also a good arc. And then we have Miyu. Now with Miyu, um, I like the fact that she is like a super genius that's good with tech, but she also lacks social skills, and therefore, despite being incredibly smart, she's usually not that helpful in trials. Like I just love the dichotomy or the character dynamic of because of the type of intelligence that Miyu has, she's useless in trials and helpful in every other situation. And then, in addition to that, I also like the fact that she will say whatever is on her mind with no filter, regardless of whether or not it's appropriate or whether or not she should. And then I also even like, because side note, when it comes to the Mono Cubs, my favorites are Mono Dam and then Mono Taro, and then after that, I'm not sure. Oh, Mono Kid definitely is the worst though. And basically, uh, the whole thing where Mono Taro thinks that his parents are Miyu and Monokuma also makes like her death and her final act hit emotionally harder because even though obviously she isn't his mom. Well, I guess maybe you could say that she's like a surrogate mom, I guess. But even though it's like technically a misconception, it does still make it more emotional. And also in addition to that, despite dying halfway through chapter 4, she's still very important in chapter 5 and slightly important in chapter 6. So she does have a presence throughout the course of the entire game. So, yeah, there you have it. Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.